All right, we're going to call the meeting of the Finance Committee to order at 7 on February 21. So is the thing broadcast?
Yep, we're good.
All right. Could you please call the roll?
Mayor Delachis,
Here.
Alderman Cleek,
Here.
Alderman Clemmons,
Here.
Alderwoman Timmons,
Here.
Alderman Moran,
Here.
Alderman Govea is here, Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
All right. Public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to the Finance Committee about an item on tonight's agenda? No one's coming forward, so we will go to communications. The first communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to security awareness training subscription in the amount of $20,356.48 funded from 54407 software maintenance / general fund, I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a 36-month contract renewal for the continued operation of NOBI for subscription services for email phishing training software with NOBI 4 in the amount of $20,356.48. Funding will be through Department 120 Technology Maintenance, Fund 54407 Software Maintenance / General Fund.
Mr. Misevich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nick Misevich, Chief Information Officer. This is the software that we procured several years ago that everyone in the city is well aware of because it sends out monthly test emails to try to trick people into falling for phishing scams and how to identify them, and provides corresponding training if you are unsuccessful. So it actually has helped considerably cut down and make people more aware of stuff that's out there and items to look for, and basically think before you click.
Good. All right, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. Sometimes I feel this software was put in just for me. I have gotten caught a couple of times opening things, and I actually sent it to Nick saying, all of this seemed to be right, but then as he told me to look in a little bit deeper, so it's a really good thing. I've taken the course a few times. I could teach it now. You'd think I wouldn't fall for it, but I do appreciate that we have this, and I think it's really worthwhile. So thank you.
All right. All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, Amy Gerard, from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regard to amendment for professional services in the amount of $20,100 funded from 53107 Architect and Engineering Services / Hunt Building Repairs and Improvements. I'm going to make a motion to approve Amendment 1 for professional services to engineering consultants to provide structural engineering and building envelope consulting services for the Hunt Memorial Building with Cram and Ferguson Architects in the amount of $20,100. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development, Fund 53107 Architect and Engineering Services / Hunt Building Repairs and Improvement.
Ms. DeRoche.
Amy DeRoche, Hunt Memorial Building. This is an amendment to add on Simpson & Guppert's, which is a structural engineering firm. They will be dealing with wind loads and structural analysis for the wooden frames for the new tower windows.
Okay. Anyone? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to contract for professional services in the amount of $49,251.09 funded from 55699 other contracted services / parking expenditures ETF. I'm going to make a motion to award a contract for professional services for the renovation and preservation of the Elm Street and High Street parking garage repairs to include construction documents, budget development, and technical services review on the design drawings, along with assisting with schedule maintenance and with Greenman Peterson, Inc. in the amount of $49,251.09. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development, Fund 55699, Other Contracted Services / Parking Expenditure, ETF.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. What this is a contract for owner's project manager services during pre-construction while we're in the design phase. By no means does this obligate us to anything for construction. What this does is helps us with a level of technical and quality review of the plans. It helps us with scheduling and making sure that we have an understanding of what the schedule will be. And then at some point, there will be a review of the work that gets done by our construction folks. But we submitted an RFP. We had 4 proposals. There was an internal working group of various city staff that came together, vetted the various proposals. There was 2 or 3 rounds of interviews. Eventually, GPI was selected as the preferred respondent. And so now I'm here before you to ask for just under $50,000 for this pre-construction services. This will pay dividends for us in the long run. If and when we do get under construction, we are currently on one element of the parking garage project at almost 100% design. That is mainly around the concrete and structural portions of the project. We have a few other design plans that need to get done. And so we would be looking to utilize GPI to help us with the coordination of all those various design groups, hopefully to put us in a position to go out for construction sometime next spring, pending bond authorization. So this is really just to help move us along in good working order to be able to try to keep this project on track. As you may or may not know, our 2 garages have been identified as structurally sensitive by our building inspector. And so we do need to pay attention to these 2 assets to be able to maintain them for their useful life. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, questions, comments? Alderwoman Cleve.
Thank you. Just for the general public, they're safe, but could you define what's structurally sensitive is so that no one has any angst about using
Yeah,
them?
as of right now, the garages are perfectly fine and safe to use, and we should not need to worry. However, every winter that we go by, as salt continues to corrode some of the concrete, and we are starting to see some of that happen. We are monitoring it. We want to stay ahead of this, and that's what this does, is keeps us ahead of what could potentially grow into an issue. And all our building safety department has is identified it as something for us to be aware of, but it is by no means critical at this stage.
Follow?
Yes.
Not critical, but something that we should be moving forward to and not putting in the back, no deference to it, just keep going forward and taking care of it.
Keep moving it forward because at some point it could be deemed critical. And we really can't anticipate when that would be because a lot of it is water dependent.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchasing of personal protective clothing / equipment in the amount of $61,000 funded from 68337 new hire application expenses / general fund. I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the procurement of 13 sets of professional protective equipment PPE from Bergeron Protective Clothing in the amount of $61,000. Funding will be through Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund 68337 new hire application expenses / general fund.
Chief?
Good evening, Steve Buxton, Fire Chief. This purchase is to equip our new firefighters that we're going to be hiring in the springtime. There's 14 members that will be onboarding, and this equipment purchase is to outfit them so they can work amongst the suppression force.
Anyone? Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I think I saw email communication from Alderman Jettie I think it would be remiss if we didn't bring it forward to the public just so they are aware. But this is purchasing the safety equipment, but it's not up to the standard of being free of carcinogens that could cause cancer, because that none exist. Is that correct?
Yep. Steve Buxton, Fire Chief. So the, what you're referring to is PFAS that exists within our protective clothing. Most of our protective clothing does have some level of it still within it. They are advancing the technologies. Our outer shell is PFAS-free. Our thermal barrier is PFAS-free. Currently, the moisture barrier is the sticking point. The technology is being advanced. There is some stuff that is ready to hit the market in the next couple months, but it's brand new, hasn't really been wear tested yet or anything like that. So it's not very clear as far as wearability, what it will be like. So currently, we're purchasing the best we possibly can to protect our members, but it's unfortunate we haven't made those advances yet.
Follow up.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief, for that explanation. I just wanted the people watching at home to know that we're purchasing the best that exists, and I'm sure we'll purchase even better once it is available. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Oops. Alderman Thibodeau.
Just reading through the paperwork, just for awareness, it was nice to see the breakdown. I was unaware the cost associated with one set, let alone 13 sets. So the justification of that dollar figure was well written out, and it was nice to see that, and gave me an appreciation as a taxpayer what's involved in protecting our people.
You're very welcome. That, just so you know, that is just the equipment we assign to each individual firefighter. That's kind of just the tip of the iceberg, so. But thank you for that.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to specialty teams comprehensive physicals in the amount not to exceed $95,000, funded from 53135 Medical Services / General Fund, I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the procurement of monies for the 2024 specialty team physicals with Site Med in the amount not to exceed $95,000. Funding will be through Department 152 Fire Rescue, Fund 53135, Medical Services / General Fund.
Chief?
Steve Buxton, Fire Chief. So this is to fund the physicals that we supply to our specialty team members. Not everybody on the fire department currently gets a physical every year. Our specialty team members do. Specialty teams are defined as somebody that participates in hazardous materials team or the dive rescue team. It's a contractual obligation with the labor group as well as a good industry standard. So
And does this include the cancer screening?
this does include some level of cancer screening, correct? And as you know, in the future, we're hopeful that we'll be able to provide such a physical for all of our members.
Okay. All right, any questions? Anybody? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So without objection, I will suspend the rules to allow for a communication that was received after the agenda was prepared. And if there is no objection, I will turn to Alderman Govea.
Communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, in regard to contract for professional services in the amount of $145,000, funded from 53142 Consulting Services and 55699 Other Contract Services. I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract to develop a marketing strategy for city government and the city with Civic Board, a Civic brand, who will create branded deliverables, physical improvements, and campaign strategies to support our economic development work and continue to enhance the city's image in the amount of $145,000. Funding will be through Department 183 Economic Development, Fund 55699, Other Contracted Services $25,000, and Fund 53142 Consulting Services $120,000.
All right, Ms. Hannum?
Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director. we went through a process of trying to figure out how to market to both businesses and to our kind of growing tourism industry. It's small but mighty at the moment. It's growing because of the Performing Arts Center. We're looking for a way to build a brand, build a campaign around how to build or how to bring new businesses and new community members into the community and spend money here. So we went through a process of a place brand audit first. And that basically said, you don't have much of a brand, you don't have much in way of kind of physical assets to start making those marketing efforts. And so we decided to go out to bid. We got 2 bidders and went through an interview process. The committee decided to go with Civic Brand over the competitor because within that $145,000, we're getting about $70,000 worth of physical improvements and placemaking efforts, as well as the social media assets, the brand building off of our existing brand, and kind of a social media campaign and video and photo assets as well. So that was why we went with Civic Brand. So hopefully we can spend the next couple of months working on building that up and then start really marketing the community and getting more of the type of businesses that we want to see and the type of developers we want to see, as well as tourists that can come from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine. So we'll start putting a campaign together for that.
All right, Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to know who's on the committee.
That was Megan Karen, Chief of Staff, and Kath Palmer, who was the PR.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always love learning about RFP efforts. No interest of anyone locally? Any reach out, trying to get someone to bid locally?
We did do reach out locally, but we had a short window of time. We do have a local group that is willing to help us once we get the campaign going. So we might come back with another contract at that point. But we do have local assets that we can use once the campaign is created.
Follow up?
Yes.
How long was the RFP open for?
3.5 weeks, I think.
Follow up. And what would have been the downside of extending the period of before you close the RFP to allow for a local company to bid?
We were just trying to move forward quickly to try and get it started because it is a long process.
Okay.
But in talking with the local company that was interested, they don't do the placemaking side of things. They only do the kind of graphic design stuff. And so we probably wouldn't have ended up going with them anyway, just because of the product that they can deliver. But I do think that they do have the assets or the skills that we can use them down the line.
That's a fair answer. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, because I'm familiar with several Alpha Graphics and others that may not have the specialty to provide the social media aspect and brand building, but couldn't put boots on the ground kind of work. The other thing, kind of in the same sphere as it goes to marketing, slightly different topic, but not really. The Pride Parade, right? Are you part of the committee by any chance?
Yep.
I heard that they might eliminate T-shirts. I think that's a bad idea because marketing T-shirts, you can see what I do. I think it's a good idea for marketing to have T-shirts and branded things. But
Yeah.
rather than send you an email, I got you here today.
Yeah. If you have a chance to look at the Civic Brand Instagram, they're really great at the branding portion. They do, they have they create two different options, one for kind of municipal government kind of options, and then one that's more of like a you know, wear it on a t-shirt, you know, the kind of public asset. And so I think that that's another positive that I thought with this group.
And I bring that up not to say that that's the only place where we should be doing t-shirts, but when you walk around and you see a Silver Knights t-shirt or other t-shirts that advertise Nashua anywhere, it attracts interest and people are like, I want to check that out.
Yeah.
That's not my perspective, and I'm sure.
I think
It's
we'd
different
love
amongst
to
other
see
people.
some branded merchandise, definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. Director Hannum, I hate to put you on the spot, but we're talking the words branding, and we're talking placemaking, and I kind of understand what you're talking about, but for those who don't, and trust me, I'm on that list, I barely understand. I do understand branding, meaning that when people hear something or see something, they automatically think of Nashua.
Yeah.
But could you just quickly, you know, at a high level, let others understand what branding and placemaking is?
Yeah, so essentially, it's kind of telling the story of the community so that you kind of immediately think of Nashua when you're seeing things. And so placemaking is that in physical form, in creating places that people want to hang out or be. So it could be anything from, just to give an example from their most recent community that they worked with in Waco, Texas. They had a connection issue in their downtown, so they created a big bike lane that was brightly painted and fun and interesting, and that was the placemaking effort that they did to connect the two ends of downtown. So thinking like that, and their brand was very bright and exciting, and they have lots of bikers, so that was kind of the way that they used their brand to create a place.
Follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. When I look at the National Center for the Arts, I think of that as a draw into our city. Would that be considered part of branding or placemaking or something to that nature, or is that just, I know from your Placer AI, we're learning that it's, and the mayor mentioned that last night, it's bringing a lot of bodies and
Yes.
people and potential shoppers and so on, so is
Yeah.
that what this will do as well?
Yeah, and there isn't the intention to rebrand the city. It's kind of building off of the existing brand. So we're not kind of going through a full branding effort. This is kind of using the existing brand and modifying it and kind of actually using it in the way that can, I don't know, get people to get excited about the community. And so using things like the Performing Arts Center or the upcoming Riverfront Walk, kind of using our assets to create that story and that brand is part of this effort. So they're going to come and do lots of public engagement. They'll come and kind of see the community and see what our assets are. That was actually also part of the place brand audit, was looking at the assets that we have. And they said we had a lot of them. There's just no real connector that we need that connector to sell the community in a way that makes sense to people.
Just one quick follow-up.
Yeah.
When they come in and they said we have assets and talk about engaging and so on, and lack of connectivity, I know that there are a lot of different things that happen throughout our community, whether it be the Pride Parade or whether it be cultural connections or, I mean, we have things such as the Historical Society that people don't even know
Yeah.
exists. And some people think that it's part of the city when it's a separate nonprofit and so on. So would they make all of those connections? Would they bring our events and assets? I consider that to be an asset, as well as performing arts. Would they bring all of that together?
Yeah, that's the idea, is that not only are they reaching out to those community members or those nonprofits that are putting those events on, but they're also using those events to then bring people in and get their feedback. So they're showing up at coffee shops, and they're showing up at the upcoming summer stroll this year. They're going to be at Pride. things like that, so that they can actually engage with the community at those events, and then use them to then build that brand going forward.
Thank you.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every about 6 months, we hear of Nashua being ranked as one of the best cities and most well-run cities. With that being said, is this the best use of the money to parlay off of that? Where do you keep going from here, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've been working on is kind of creating tourists out of our residents, since we have that small tourism industry. And so getting residents to understand what's here, using the community the way that we want them to, and regularly, then creates ambassadors for them to go out into other communities and talk about Nashua, and it pays off dividends kind of long term, when people like being in the place that they live, and like participating. And so kind of getting them just to see what's here. We have a lot of commuters, and so getting those commuters that are not here regularly, they go to work, they go to bed, getting them to use the community is part of this. And so I think it is a good effort, and good use of the funds to go forward to kind of build that community spirit.
One follow-up. Was this the cheaper option, or what did the other bid come in at?
They were exactly the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. So you mentioned in your comments that we'd be building off of the brand. Can you tell me what the brand is?
So right now we have a logo, which is not necessarily a brand.
And what is the logo?
The logo is the Nashua, the blue kind of printed.
The city seal you're talking about.
Well, so the city seal is one of them, but we've got just the
Where it says
word
Nashua,
Nashua. So we've got 2 different logos that we can use, but building off of that and using that, whether it's the colors or using kind of the fonts, I think that's where they're headed.
Yes.
So, about this point, 13 years ago, 14 years ago, I was involved in trying to do a very similar project with the city of Nashua as an alderman. And they came out with Dare to Begin, and I think that's what you're referring to when you say
The blue, yeah.
the blue and gold. So that was a very painstaking process that involved a lot of community members, the Chamber of Commerce. We put a lot of effort into it, and then it died. And it got killed because of some of the people on the Board of Aldermen. So my question is, why would we do this again? Because it was unsuccessful in the past, and although I agree with it, and I was very much behind it then, half of the community was rallied around it to be against it, and it actually caused a divide in the community. So how do we prevent that from happening again?
That's a good question.
All right, but I think this is not that exercise. So I remember that very well. I think what their initial investigation has found in interviewing a lot of people is that Nashua's reputation is not that clear. So it is not designed to create a slogan, Dare to Begin, but to try to articulate what the community's identity really is, and to try, we're known as the Gate City, right? What is that really, what is that, to try to create an identity or to identify the identity and strengthen it and build on it in such a way that when people think of Nashua, they think, oh, that's the place that X, has rail service. That's the one with the Performing Arts Center. That's the one with the Great River Walk. When you think of Providence, you think of the River Fire project, right? I mean, so there's some identity connected with that. So it is not the same exercise that was done back in those days.
If I could,
And I keep saying to be honest, to Liz, don't call it branding, because exactly this point you're making, this is not the same thing.
yeah.
And we don't want to do that again, to end up with just a controversy. So I think this is a different approach.
I'll just add to your don't let it die conversation is I did hear that quite a bit from the previous branding effort. And so I have put money in my budget, hopefully for next year, once it gets approved, to continue this effort and continue placemaking. And I think that the placemaking portion is going to be really important, as well as the marketing efforts specifically towards businesses and developers and development opportunities. So I think that I'm cognizant of that failure, and so I think that I'm gonna try to make sure that doesn't happen this time.
Alderman Clemmons.
Are we partnering with the Chamber of Commerce, or who are we partnering with that, other than the city itself?
Yeah, so we did the placemaking efforts. So we had, or the place brand audit. So we had the Chamber, GAD, the hospital, BAE. So we brought in a lot of community partners. PSA was there, the Positive Street Art. So we had a good group of people that started the effort in the place brand audit, and we would definitely continue going forward with that. And I know Civic Brand's public engagement portion includes kind of community partners along the way quite a bit.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I'm going to hesitantly support this only because I have been an advocate for marketing this city since I first became an alderman back in 2008. And it has been a source of contention that I thought we had tried to achieve back in, like I said, 13 years ago. But, you know, so it did not meet with a lot of success. But I am of the belief that just because something fails once, you don't stop trying. So I do think that we need to market our city. I do think that there is a lot of things going for Nashua. But I'm supporting this. $145,000 is a lot of money. And I just hope that my vote is not in vain, that we do this and then something happens where, because the first thing to get cut in any budget is marketing. And so if we're going to make a massive investment in this, then we have to keep it up regardless of what the budget constraints may be in an upcoming year. Because to drop it would be to waste $145,000 in my opinion. So I will hesitantly support that with the caveat that it needs to be in the budget continually going forward to market Nashua once we figure out what the concept is.
Yes, Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am going to support this, but I do agree with everything that Alderman Clements said. Sadly, when cuts are made, they always cut things like marketing, education, things that they think are on the periphery. But the truth is, marketing is extremely important. If you want to bring dollars into the city, you need to continue marketing. One of the aspects in this city, we have a lot of things going on just in the city. I'm constantly hearing people say there's nothing to do in the city, and I have a newsletter that shows differently that we have a lot to do in the city for the children, for the things like that. We have the Arlington Street, we have, PAL going on, we have the library efforts, we have all these little things, we have the Pride Parade, we're gonna have the summer stroll, we had the chocolate stroll, we had all these different things that are happening throughout our city that local residents aren't even aware of. They hear about it maybe the day before or so on, and I think you've been doing a phenomenal job. So thank you for all of your efforts and creativity. I'm going to support this because I think that you can continue this, and I think we have a mayor that will make sure that this continues to happen. But I really do want to see all of the little things that are happening. For instance, I'm going to bring it up again, the Historical Society just recently did an event for the Hutchinson Family Singers that almost nobody knows who they are. They were really kind of one of the first pop groups, and they're from 1849. Granted, they were from Milford, but they did this phenomenal thing. I've looked back at past things that they've done. They had Susan B. Anthony readings and all these other types of situations that I talked to people no one ever knew unless you were in that little tight group. So I think that we don't have a local newspaper anymore. So it's going to be on the back of the city to kind of gather everything that's happening, and that's a lot of work. So I'd like to see some of this branding, this marketing, and how we can figure out how to get all of those aspects. So the citizens, as well as the tourists. When I first moved to Nashua, the Pheasant Lane Mall had recently been built and so on, and I looked at Nashua as being a shopping center, not a tourist center. Shopping and brick and mortar is dying. I don't want our city to die with it, so the more that you can do and the more that we can, and connect things. Everybody, you do TripAdvisor, there's Greeley Park, there's Mine Falls, soon we'll have the riverfront, but no one puts all those together as, I could do the Riverwalk and then go up to Greeley Park, or do the Riverwalk, go right to Mine Falls. I want to see that connectivity, how people can see how they can all go together. So I think this is a good idea, and I think between you and the mayor and the rest of the city staff will, fingers crossed, will continue, and this will not be a budget cut. So thank you.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a tough one for me, and I think right now I'm leaning more towards voting no on it. And it goes off of exactly what Alderman Clemens said, is to have a program like this, you need substantial buy-in. And I mean, we're starting with 125,000, which when you're talking about branding a city is just the start of what you're gonna spend to actually make real impact and really brand a city. And that ties the hands of a lot of future budgets, which I'm all for branding, but I quite honestly feel this city brands and markets itself really well. And I think we see that by all these awards we win, being ranked the best, one of the best cities to live in. And at this time, I just don't feel that this is the best use of money that we could be spending on right now.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned social media being a facet of this. Recommendation. This guy has so many followers. I don't know why I don't see Facebook Reels. One of those like, oh yeah, of course I'm the mayor of Nashua.
Yeah.
And I drink coffee at 6 in the morning, and then at 6:30, and then at like a joke kind of thing to really draw people in. And that's an easy thing to do without really spending any money.
Right.
I don't know who handles his social media accounts. I'm guessing him. If it is, that's great.
Yeah.
He needs to be marketing that too. But those are kind of things too for the younger folks that end up wondering what's going on. And, oh, Coffee with the Mayor. I know when Coffee with the Mayor is before I get an email because Jim's sharing it on Facebook. But I think I hear the hesitation, and I could go either way on it, but I'm a big believer in marketing. It's made my company very successful, and if you guys are committed to it, I think it'll make the city even more successful than it is.
Yeah, and I think that some of those kind of, minimal cost or no cost kind of things are going to come out in that social media campaign, like content plan. So that will all come as part of this as well.
I would like my colleague to the right first because he's had his hands up for a while.
Alderwoman Timmons.
You wanna
Nope,
go?
most of the people
Okay.
ask my questions, so I've been checking them off as I go.
Oh, okay, 'cause he had his
They'd
hands
be
up.
repeats.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
If I may. The only question I had that wasn't asked is you had mentioned, with this money, some of the items would be physical items.
Mhm.
Obviously, you won't know exactly what they are until you get further down the road, but what are those potential items that are associated with this?
So we've talked about kind of doing things like taking the design for West Pearl Street and doing it kind of as a pilot project with planters and jersey barriers and cones and things, and painting the sidewalks and doing kind of a fun event there, kind of activating the space as part of this branding campaign. So it's much more than just like logos and a social media plan. So we've got $85,000 within that budget that is for those kinds of activations.
So, to put that a little bit more into context, there was money appropriated to redo West Pearl, the sidewalks and everything. I think the number was 1.2 million. Trouble is, the first bid came in at 2.4. We put it out to bid again, and it came in at 3.8, wasn't that it?
Mhm.
Like, what do you do now? Come up with 2.5 million more? So what Ms. Hannum here is talking about is, well, could we spend 50,000 and instead of, and use paint and kind of other kind of fun kind of things very cheaply, relatively cheaply, to kind of activate the street, West Pearl, rather than spend $3.8 million. The Civic brand came up with it's come up with some concepts that could be applied on West Pearl that would kind of make it a more interesting place without spending, all this money. And the only other thing I would add, I mean, the kind of thing you can do is if you create a place, maybe it's a mural, maybe it's some kind of image, that people want to do an Instagram in front of.
Mhm.
If you got people coming there and putting that on their, oh God, I want to be in front of, Mickey Mouse or whatever you've got there. That's great. And the more you get from, that's totally a free publicity that you obtain by people just sort of pushing the image that's part of Nashua themselves. So, but in terms of this placemaking, I'm just trying, Liz mentioned West Pearl. That is the replacement for a much more expensive approach that we really don't have the money for at this moment.
Thank you.
Yes, Alderman Clemmons.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that's kind of like why, my wife will disagree with me, but I told her the reason we went to Burlington, Vermont was so that I could see the tallest file cabinet in the world. So
So you could see what?
it is there, by the way, and there happens to be a really nice brewery right next door too. But yeah, so you're right. We should have something that maybe not that, but yeah.
Alderman Moran.
Now I'm realizing he does do his own social media. Because similar to what you stated, and Alderman Clemmons, when I went to Seattle, I found the troll under the bridge, and it's a place that you go for the picture and you share it.
Yeah.
And it's done relatively in an inexpensive way.
Yeah, I think Manchester has the cat alley, so it's similar things that.
I mean, the only thing we've got really like that, I would say, is the brick house or the stone house at Greeley Park,
Yeah.
right? Where people go for weddings, and you see a lot of pictures over time around that place.
Proms, weddings, just
Yeah.
pictures in general, yeah.
So that's one, but if we had 10, that would be better,
Start sticking bubble gum. God, Pike's Place.
Anyway, any other questions or comments now? We've talked this out. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
And
Aye.
can we do this by roll call?
If you call for it, yes.
Yes, I'd like to have this done by roll call.
All right, so we're going to do this vote by roll call. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Donchus,
Yes.
Alderman Clee,
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons,
Yes.
Alderwoman Timmons,
Yes.
Alderman Moran,
Yes.
Alderman Govea is a no, Alderman Thibodeau,
Yes.
that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, the motion carries, and the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is, if I can find the agenda. Where is the agenda? Oh, yes. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We don't have any. Tabled in committee, nothing. New business resolutions and ordinances, we have nothing. Record of expenditures. Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that the Finance Committee has compiled with city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from February 2nd, 2024 to February 15th, 2024.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion. Any general discussion from anyone? Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Today I had the honor of doing the ribbon cutting with the mayor today at 44 High Street, and that building is phenomenal. I mean, this is what we need in this city. And I did a tour, and I couldn't believe how nice that building and the amenities that they have, and the parking garage was phenomenal. Heated parking garage, public heating parking garage was really great. And this is really marketing. And this building is gonna be probably filled by the end of March, because they're already doing pretty good right now. How many tenants they have already in 2 days?
I think they
So-
said 13 in the first 10 days.
13 tenants, and so this is a form of marketing, and we have to market our city. We have to move forward. We cannot just sit back and say, okay, we got this great city, but we want to continue this great city. We want to move on. And if we don't market the city and show what we got here, we may be first the next time. We have to do that. This is something we have to do. And that 145,000 could bring us 245,000 when you market right. So that's why I supported the marketing piece. And I just know that our city is growing, and we should let the world know that Nashua is alive and is growing. And one of my colleagues talked about all the things that is good for children. We need things that's good for adults, young adults. Not my age, because we're done. But, but young adults need things. They need clubs. They need, what is that little arcade thing up in Manchester?
Dave and Buster's?
There you go. I'm telling you, the old people don't know that. But they need that, and I have a lot of young grandchildren that's adults, young adults. They said, there's nothing in Nashua. There's nothing for them in Nashua, and you don't want them to go down to Boston. We want to keep them right here, spending their money right here in this city. And we do that very well for our children and the young people, but we really do need to do something for our young adults as well.
Alderwoman Clee.
I was going to actually say my remarks or remarks by the alderman, but in answer to Alderwoman Timmons' comment, there are things to do. We do have that arcade and the bungee jump, or whatever you want to call it, that's down on the Daniel Webster Highway, that's more down towards the south end. So while we could have more things like that, things like marketing would show that we do have those kind of things, much like Manchester has. So we do have those things. It's just not
Enough of it.
Well, it's not just, it's not enough of it. It's not well known that that's there. Fun World has been there forever, I think.
But Fun
And-
Wheel is for 18 and under, it's not for young adults. No
Well, the
young
other,
adult want to go to Fun
I don't want
Wheel.
to debate this. I don't want to debate this. I'm just saying that there are things that are out there. We just don't get the information out. And I'll save the rest of my comments for remarks by the alderman.
Okay.
Anyone else? General comments? All right, public comment. Any member of the public wish to address the committee? Remarks by alderman. Any remarks by alderman? Alderwoman Clee.
I have nothing to say as far as that's concerned. I wasn't able to go to the ribbon cutting. I went to an event today for the Smart Start program through United Way. It's an extraordinary program that the United Way has taken on, and it's not just Nashua, it's Nashua and I believe 13 other communities that do it. I was quite impressed with the programs and so on that they do for preschool. It's beyond, from birth to preschool is where they kind of work and so on. I was disappointed to hear that there are 2 communities within it that have something called ACERT. And I know I'm going to get this wrong, but basically it's adverse child experience. The ACE is what we've always known, but the RT is for kind of like a recovery team or to help with that. Nashua doesn't have that. There are different components. I'd like to see our Board of Ed kind of work with it. Alderwoman Timmons might be interested in something like that as well. It's just an incredible program, and there are grant money that comes through it. They've gotten a couple of grants to be able to help them go forward. I think more of us should learn about this Smart Start program. It helps get child development from birth until even they hit school. And then from that point, the school can take on, but this kind of works with those students, especially students that don't have the resources. It helps parents get resources for their children. It helps them have community groups where they can talk and work together and find out that they're not alone. So it's an incredible program, and I think that more of us should learn about it. So thank you.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was gonna let it go, but I guess I can't. So Alderman Timmons, you must be talking like 21 to 25, because we have had nightclubs in this city. Maybe Alderman Clemens could remember.
I do.
Alderman Govert, you were not remembering, I hope.
I remember.
There's the junkyard on Amherst Street, which closed, and that was placed next to like a rehab facility. I don't know what they were thinking. And then the casino here beforehand was the ballroom or something.
Amber Room.
And, yes, and I had,
Amber Room.
yeah, my wife at the time, girlfriend, and I had gone there several times. But the city, I think, has gone in a different direction in regards to that type of nightlife. Because now, for that type of nightlife, maybe Casey McGee's and Peddler's Daughter, but not like club.
Like Brothers 4.
And, but I definitely can agree that,
Way back when.
axe throwing, adventures type stuff, the escape rooms are here as well. But I don't know if the city's right for the nightclubs, just because they've tried and failed so many times. But you get more young people coming in, maybe it's another opportunity. Because you're right, even at 36, I'd probably have to go to Boston.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not touching that. I just want to let the public know that Cultural Connection is meeting tomorrow at 12 o'clock here at the auditorium.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Alderman Govea, or no, excuse me. No, sorry. No, it's Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd like to motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:54 PM.